the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. That's why I created the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Every show is 30 minutes, and the guests are my Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals. They're so wonderful. Financial advisors, divorce attorneys, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists, and more. We talk about every subject that you can even think of having to do with divorce. The podcast is meant to empower you and inspire you and make you feel really, really confident so that you can have a good divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. You can find the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling. Before we get started, I want to say something about going through a divorce. Tough conversations, big decisions, and tons of emotions. According to Kristen Knoll and Bill Miles, these are just some of the challenging moments that women going through a divorce face. Not to mention the division of assets, worrying about the kids' well-being, and the fact that your heart is broken. Kristen and Bill both know firsthand the pain of divorce since each went through one. They are the founders of the Intuitive Divorce, which is a 16-week coaching program designed to help mothers in 3 ways: gain clarity, heal, and strategize. In other words, take control of your divorce. Kristen and Bill are also a couple. They've been together for 20 years. They're a blended family, and they truly understand what you're going through both during and after divorce. If you want to learn more, you can find this wonderful program at intuitivedivorce.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce mediator named Mara Linder. Mara is an attorney, a mediator, and the founder of her Arizona-based practice, Modern Mediation. And Mara understands the significance and the benefits of mediation, especially for high net worth complex divorce. She's been doing this for decades. She is so smart, so experienced, and so dedicated to helping people get through the divorce and be guided towards a healthier future with swift revolutions, peace of mind, and financially smart solutions every step of the way. If you want to learn more about Mara, you can find her at modernmediationaz.com. So I am somebody who had 2 experiences with financial advisors. I once had a financial advisor who never asked me one question, never called, ever. I mean, I probably heard from them like once a year when they sent me this little box of cookies for the holidays, and that was it. I'm not saying every financial advisor is that way and that they're not good, but I think that the best financial advisors are those who communicate a lot with you, listen to you, and ask you questions so that they can come up with the best financial plan for you. And today we're going to talk about 3 questions most financial advisors won't ask you, but my guest will. He's a financial advisor. I'm so excited for this because I just loved this article that he wrote. So I'm going to introduce him. My guest is Luke Sauter, and Luke is a personal financial specialist, an investment advisor representative, and the president and CEO of Vidarrow Investments. Hi, Luke.
I'm so excited to be here, Jackie, and thank you for that opening. And I absolutely will ask people those 3 questions because I think they're really important.
Well, we're going to ask them on this episode, and they are important. And I love your whole philosophy on working with women during and after divorce, because I find that now I was in a different position, Luke. When I got divorced, like I have a Series 7. I used to work in that industry many years ago. So I understood the stock market. I didn't get married till I was 35, so I had invested my own money, but I was not the norm. There are countless women who get
Yeah.
divorced and they have never really looked at the stock market. And that's okay. I'm not judging. They were doing their duties, they were letting their husband do the finances. They didn't really look. And now they're intimidated and they feel stupid and they shouldn't. And that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, it happens all too often. And, it really should be the case that people are not hard on themselves about that if they find themselves in that spot. It should be a place that's judgment free, both in terms of how the advisor views those conversations and those questions, but also, that inner rhetoric that we all have. Am I good enough? Man, am I not on top of it? Why don't I know this? How could I have found myself in this spot? The reality is every couple is different. Every couple has different roles and responsibilities that get split up within the household. And oftentimes, money is with one of the spouses. Um, and if you're one of the spouses that it wasn't with, oftentimes it's like, well, my husband had the money guy and had that relationship, or, that was his thing. And now you find yourself in a spot where really it's your thing. It's an opportunity to almost decide what your own perspective and point of view is. It gives you space not only to breathe, but to form an opinion about what you as an individual now want your livelihood to look like and your financial destiny to look like as you move forward. So it presents a really unique opportunity too, if you can get past that first set of feelings like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by this because I haven't had to deal with it before. And I do think that's where a trusted advisor comes in and is pretty helpful. Spoiler alert, if you don't hear from your advisor more than once a year, you're probably getting hosed. That's my own personal opinion. You're probably not getting great service. So, what do you
Okay.
think about
And
that,
did
Jackie?
and by the
Uh,
way, also got horrible returns like when everyone else was making money. So, okay.
Yep.
Boy, I just can't let it go. Okay. But what I want to say is before we get to the three questions that you think financial advisors should ask people, their clients or potential
Yeah.
clients, I just want to get your opinion on this. Don't you feel like understanding investing in the stock market is a lot more intimidating? It seems so much more intimidating than it really is. And that somebody can learn. They don't have to take the Series 7 and understand exactly how the market works, but it's not as hard as you think, is what I want to tell these women.
It's absolutely not as hard as you think. It comes down to a set of common sense principles that once you understand them, you can sort of navigate your way through it. And at Vidarrow, so at my firm, when we work with people, education is a huge focal point. So we're not here giving advice necessarily on its own. What we're here to do is educate first. That way you have a frame of reference to decide if you like the advice that we're giving you. And that's a pretty important thing that we do here. And so it can be learned. There's no question about it. It's not as complex as all the charts and numbers would make it seem.
And you don't have to get that into it. You just need a big picture overview, and you need to
Yeah.
trust your advisor that he or she is listening to you and your needs and understands your plan so that they know what to invest in. So it's all about communication, in my opinion.
Yeah, so at our firm, we talk about how having a plan and having an investment thesis, those two things kind of go hand in hand. So, it's one thing to invest to try to get good returns and make more money. It's another thing to invest with the purpose of achieving your plan and achieving your goals. And so we go to great lengths to try to connect the two so that people can understand, okay, I know I want to accomplish this with my life. Is my portfolio configured in a way that is going to allow for those things to happen? And if not, then there's ongoing dialogue, often ongoing dialogue to get us to that place. And oftentimes, if I could just throw this out there, there's the setup. So, once somebody goes through divorce, I can think of a client offhand. I love all my clients, but this one in particular was one of my first. So I really think fondly on the experience we've had so far. She was one of those spouses who did not have responsibilities in the marriage with money, and now finds herself in a position where she wants to learn. And so, in the last 8 months, I would say I've probably spent 15 hours with her, maybe more, just on the topics of education, account opening, what to do with the pension that was sitting there that there's an entitlement to, and things like that. And so, if you have a good person that's willing to invest the time in you, you can do great things together with that advisor.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, I want to get to the questions. So, Luke, in his article that he wrote for Divorce Girl Smiling, had 3 questions that most advisors won't ask you. And he wrote in parentheses, but I will. So, if you have a consult with Luke, here is kind of what he's going to ask you. And it's the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is very important. I read the questions in kind of coming up with a financial plan and feeling good about your post-divorce life. So these are really important. So the first question is, if you could earn, spend, or give without judgment, what would change? And Luke, you talk about financial shame, and it's often inherited in the marriage. So you're saying, let's
Yeah.
dismantle that. So give me an example of this question and why it's, like that you asked somebody and what they said.
Yeah, 100%. So oftentimes we're sort of bound by the circumstances of our reality in a way that we don't even necessarily understand. When a couple sits down to prepare a financial plan, if they have taken that step, oftentimes those goals represent the goals of the unit, not necessarily the goals of the individual. When you find yourself with a new degree of freedom and the ability to operate as you as the individual outside of the context of the unit, oftentimes the identity, the financial identity that you have or didn't know that you have, ends up being different than what the unit would have reflected. So, for example, the unit may have had a shared goal to do X, Y, and Z. As an individual, those things may not necessarily be priorities for you as the individual. And so it's really a moment to be able to step back and say, okay, what does wealth mean to me? Why should I care about money? Is it freedom? Is it peace of mind? Is it the ability to say no when before I didn't really have the ability to say no? You have a chance to form an opinion on these things and really kind of remove yourself from any of the legacy marital assumptions to create now a life that you can be proud of and a life that you can be happy with moving forward. And it does start with getting your financial house in order. The things that really result in happiness in life, I find it's health, it's financial stability, and it's community, having people around you that love you and support you, and whether those are friends, family, or otherwise. And so, those 3 pillars have to be looked after. You now as an individual have a chance to define one of those pillars. And so it's an exciting moment. And for me as an advisor, it's really rewarding to ask questions to try to pull it out of people.
Well, I love that you just said health, financial stability, and community.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about like the big fancy car or these
Mhm.
material things because that's not what it is. It's about people,
Yeah.
it's about feeling safe and comfortable, and it's obviously about your health too.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to go to the break because we are really late for the break. I want to tell everyone you're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with Luke Sauter, a personal financial specialist, investment advisor representative, and the founder of Vidarrow Investment Advisors. And Luke and I are answering. No, we're not answering. We're telling you 3 questions that most financial advisors won't ask you, but Luke will. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to get to the other 2 questions. But I also want to address financial guilt that women feel when they get divorced. We'll be right back. From someone who went through a divorce without any divorce coaching, I can say personally how important it is to get support during and after divorce. Having this kind of support would have made a huge impact both in my emotional state of mind and the outcome of my divorce. Andra Davidson, who has spent 25 years working in crisis communications, is a divorce coach and mediator who offers a fantastic online divorce course for those who have a divorce coach and want some self-directed divorce support, or they choose not to hire a divorce coach. Andra went through a divorce, she's passionate, and she wants people to succeed in their divorce. What does that mean? Regain self-confidence, find inner strength, and successfully move through the divorce process so that you can get the best outcome. If you want to learn more about Andra's course, it's called Better Than Before Divorce, and just go to betterthanbeforedivorce.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful mortgage lender named Jan Leisure. Jan has been a mortgage lender since 1997, and she's also a certified divorce lending professional, a CDLP. Jan's the best. I'm telling you, she's so experienced. She's a wonderful listener. She's a problem solver. She's inspiring and really, really wonderful to be around. Can't say enough about her. If you want to learn more about Jan, you can find her at diamondresidential.com/Jan Leisure. And you can find both Jan and the Better Than Before Divorce course at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, we are telling you 3 questions that most financial advisors won't ask you, but my guest will. My guest is Luke Sauter, the president and CEO of Vidarrow Investment Advisors. And I want to tell my audience, Luke, that you spent 15 years working in corporate America as a corporate finance executive for a Fortune 500 company. And you said that during that time, you worked with these highly successful professionals who were in significant leadership roles, but none of them could balance their demanding careers with their financial well-being. So basically, they weren't thinking big picture, right? They were just focused on the job, but they didn't have a good financial plan.
100%. That environment was one of the impetuses for launching my firm. What I'll tell you is, when you're in a role as a corporate executive, whether it's mid-level, high level, it's a grind. It's 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night, and by the time you end that day, there's not much mental space for anything else. In particular, looking after your own financial situation, your own estate situation, and so on. And by the way, corporate execs are not the only people that have aggressive schedules like that. Working
Everyone.
moms,
Yeah.
everybody, right? And
Yes.
so, that theme, when I saw that pressure and what it did to people's ability to look after their own personal affairs, which in the end, when it gets to the point where we all decide to hang it up and retire, how good a job we did looking after our own selves will be directly reflected in that moment, and the quality of our life from that point forward will be too. So to have an opportunity to help people with that, for me, is kind of the privilege of a lifetime.
I love it. I love it. It's so
Yeah.
needed. Okay, I want to get back to this financial shame that you talked about in the article.
Yeah.
You said it's often inherited from a marriage dynamic. Now, I'm going to paint a scenario. So, you're
Okay.
a woman, you're married, you quit your job to stay home with the kids. And for, 15, 20 years, all you heard from your husband is, I'm working. I'm working. You don't work all day. I'm tired.
Right.
I'm providing. So when you get divorced, these women get divorced and they almost feel guilty. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, do not feel any guilt whatsoever. When you get divorced, you built your wealth with your husband and you stayed home and took care of the kids, and 50% of that is yours. It's just my opinion.
1,000,000%. From the moment you get married, you are now a team. And it doesn't matter whose account says what. It doesn't matter whose, name certain asset. Bottom line is, in spirit and conceptually, you two are now a unit moving forward. And you each have different responsibilities in that unit. And it is absolutely inappropriate, in my view, to say that one set of responsibilities is somehow worth more weighting than the other. And so any guilt, any shame somebody might have from not carrying responsibility A versus B, in this case, the money, it is absurd. And the other person in the relationship should never, ever, ever make you feel less than, because you are not less than. You're part of that team, an equivalent unit, my view.
And nothing good comes from guilt and feeling guilty and like, oh, maybe I didn't deserve this, because maybe you're so brainwashed by your ex-husband that you're not even thinking that you do deserve it. So, in answer to your question, Luke, if somebody said, if you could earn, spend, or give without judgment, what could change? Maybe you want a different house. Maybe you want to go back to work, but you just don't know what you want to do. And maybe you want to buy a second home, or you want to spend a few months in Florida every winter. It's a good time. Divorce kind of forces you to, I'm not saying you get the answer to this question overnight, but in several months, figure out what you want your life to look like. And Luke calls it a financial awakening. So people get divorced and they come out the other side, not just financially independent, but financially reborn.
100%. I think when we first take on clients who are going through divorce, we sort of start with a values-based approach, which is not uncommon, but we really spend extra time on it because we want to we want to flesh out that financial identity. We want to see what's in there and give it an opportunity to come out. And so we really start with, why is money important to you? What is it about it that's important to you? Not the unit, to you now. And as you think about moving forward, that's why we ask that question. If you could spend money on anything without anybody judging, including me, your ex, what would you spend it on? That gets to the heart of, what do you value? And when people are in a place where it's fresh and it's new, this is a personal framework that I like to use. I use it in my own life, actually. It's a three-part question. Someone I care about deeply told me about this maybe 10 years ago, and it has just stuck with me. It goes something like this. The key to happiness in life is sort of threefold, is the idea. You have to have someone to love, you have to have something to do, and you have to have something to look forward to. And if at any point in time you have those three things, your odds of happiness go up exponentially. And so when we think about this financial identity, and when we get to the point where we say, well, what do you as the individual want to have as goals, right? Oftentimes I'll bring that up to say, well, do you have something to look forward to? And if not, maybe we need to have a few goals so that there's something to look forward to. If you don't have something to do with that money, maybe we need to have that, right? So hopefully that's something that's helpful for your audience.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm going to
Thank you.
start saying that. It makes
It's
so
pretty
much
good.
sense. What a great thing to say. Now, if a divorced woman came to see you, she would not have somebody to love, but that might not just mean a significant other.
It
That
doesn't.
could mean kids, family, friends,
Parents, you name it. You name
right?
it. a hundred
Oh
percent.
my gosh, I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get to the second question, which is, what does financial peace look like on a random Tuesday, not just in retirement? And you say that most planning is future focused, but your life is happening right now. So, what does that mean? Why do you ask that question?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get this quote wrong, but another mentor of mine, Ferris Bueller, if you've ever seen that movie, life happens pretty fast. If you're not paying attention, it might pass you by.
Mhm.
That's the idea here. I personally don't think it's a great idea to have all of the savings, all of the future focused things to look forward to being 35 years into the future or 30 years into the future. I just think life is too precious. Tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us. And so part of what we try very hard to do is make sure that when we're having these planning discussions, we're balancing the here and now and the quality of life associated with that. And then the long-term aspiration of, okay, when we get to a point where we want to slow down, what does that look like? But you can't just pay attention to one or the other, because in the end, that three-part framework I mentioned, you may not have in the near term, midterm, and long term good answers to those three things. So we really try to get to the heart of that, on a random Tuesday.
Okay, my
What does it look like?
example that I want to
Yeah.
tell people listening
Yeah.
is that last summer, I made a decision that I wanted to go to Greece on a retreat with these women. And it
Yeah.
was not a cheap trip. It was
Yeah.
more money than I had ever spent on a vacation ever.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, I don't know, this is a lot. And I was so stressed about it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, you got to just do it. I mean, if your financial advisor says,
Yeah.
you know what, you really can't afford this. Okay, that would be the only reason not to do it. But it's a good idea to call your financial advisor and say, hey, is this going to make a difference in my life if I do this right now? And I think, Luke, that's what you're talking about. Like, live in the present. You can't, of course, you want to have a comfortable retirement plan, but you want to
Yeah.
spend some money now. You deserve that.
You absolutely deserve that. And you have to be realistic about what you're going to be able to do 30 years from now or 40 years from now, right? Will we be as mobile as we were? Will we have as much energy and zeal for things like a trip to Greece? So 100%, you have to, in a way, you have to live in the moment, but never take your eye off the horizon. And we try to make sure that we appropriately balance that. And by the way, it could be experiences. And I love the idea of a Greece trip. 100% love that. It could be things too. It could be like, man, I have a client who's always wanted a collector car. It's like, well, okay, you know, are you going to enjoy a collector car when you're 85? Will you drive it as much? If not, then maybe we should talk about pulling that idea forward and seeing where we go. And so it's different for everybody, but the idea is don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until it's too late. If you have a chance at happiness, you reach out and you grab it, as long as it's not reckless.
That's what you have a financial advisor for.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
last question. What if your financial plan wasn't just about survival, but reinvention? And you wrote, post divorce life isn't a holding pattern, it can be a launch pad.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And this goes back to, you're creating a new plan for you, because what matters in that moment is you and your happiness. And when we look forward, forget about what happened up to this point in time, but when we look forward now, what is in the best interest of you? What's going to make you as happy as can be? And how do we set yourself up to get to that place? And that to me is the heart of reinvention. It's this idea of, okay, everything that happened up to this point in time, it's water under the bridge. Now we get to think about the fun part, which is, where do we go from here? What does that look like? And it lets you dream big, and you should dream big. When I'm working with people in this moment, if they come to the table with more of the same, I do push and challenge. In fact, the one client I mentioned earlier, I pushed hard on the idea of annual vacations, because it didn't happen before. There are kids in the picture. Why shouldn't it happen moving forward, right? The fact that it didn't before, never mind that. It's an opportunity to create memories, experiences. And if we can find a way to work it in, as long as it sounds fun to you, let's go for it, right? Let's have some fun with this thing. It
And
shouldn't
just
just be about the
FYI,
responsibility part. It should be about some fun.
and just FYI, when your kids get to college, they never want to take vacations with you. So do it now.
Do it now while they're young. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So, in closing, because we only have a couple more minutes,
Yep.
but I wanted to read this that you wrote that I just love this. So,
Yeah.
Luke in his article wrote, whether you're contemplating divorce, actively going through one, or rebuilding afterward, here is a list of financial identity micro wins that make a huge difference.
Mm,
One,
yeah.
you want to say it, or do you want to tell the three things?
So I don't actually have it in front, but
Oh,
can I try, see if I
yeah.
remember it? So I think
Yeah.
so. The first is, like, make a financial goal that's yours, that you own. So this is part of starting to establish your own identity. So come up with something that is just for you. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be small, it could be big, as long as it's yours. And that should help you feel just a little bit more in control. The second one, if I remember right, and this one is huge, whether you reach out to me or to somebody else, take the step of reaching out to an advisor. By doing that, whether you hire them or not, you're going to feel like you now have your hands on the wheel. You're going to feel like you have more control over where you're headed. Even if you choose not to hire them, even if the call goes poorly, you're now more in the driver's seat because you're taking that step on your own proactively to establish your final financial identity and future moving forward. And by the way, if you do make that call, I strongly suggest working with a fiduciary, ideally one that's fee only. I think that's a good combination of things. But those two come to mind, Jackie. What was the third?
Okay, but I want to say something else about the
Please.
financial
Yeah.
advisor. First of all, it's a free
Yeah.
consult, so you don't owe the person anything.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is, every time you have a consultation with any professional, you learn something. You learn something you
Yeah.
didn't know, and it helps you move on to the next phase, whether you hire the financial advisor or not.
Sure.
You're getting empowered. That's what I want to stress on this. You need to get empowered, and it's so much easier than you think. And you're going to love yourself, and you're going to love your life, and you're going to feel, like Luke said, like in control. Like, I got this. I'm managing my own money. And
Yeah.
well, you're really not managing. You and your financial advisor are managing it. And it's just
Yeah.
a wonderful feeling of freedom. Like, Luke, I know this woman who doesn't wanna leave her husband, and she's been unhappy for a very long time because she's
Yeah.
too afraid, and she doesn't believe that she can manage the finances. I mean, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I wanna just say to her, well, I have, "You definitely can handle this. That should be, like, the least of your worries."
Yeah. There's two things that come to mind there. So first, just the basics. So if I pretend like this is a meter, and on one end is intimidated, and on the other end is empowered, your goal is to slowly over time move the meter from intimidated more towards empowered, right? And finding a trusted advisor, whether it's after that first call or after a few, so you form an opinion, that'll help you get there. But the quote that comes to mind, Jackie, is, life is full of hard things, and none of us are meant to go at it fully alone. And so just because your spouse was filling that role doesn't mean that there's not somebody else who's not a spouse that could fill that role. And a good wealth manager will understand that. It's one of the things that I take great pleasure in, is being able to be that trusted shoulder to lean on to help people with financial planning things and investment management things when they didn't have experience with it. So back to my point on education, if you can find an advisor who's willing to put in the time with you, you can learn the basics. And then for anything more complex than the basics, the advisor is going to be there to help support you and your family throughout the rest of the journey. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It truly is an empowering moment.
I would say I would describe it
Yeah.
as fun. It
Yeah.
doesn't people are probably listening going, "Fun?" Yes, it's fun
It
because
is.
it give you so much peace of mind,
Yeah.
self-confidence, and peace. It's gonna make you feel like everything's gonna be okay.
And it's like day one. And now you get to start thinking about what's day two, what's day three, what's day four. And believe it or not, there is a lot to look forward to. Even if you're going through a really difficult moment, there is a lot to look forward to, especially if you keep those three things in mind that I said, somebody to love, something to look forward to, and something to do. You'll find your path. Yeah.
Love it. All right. I know we don't even really have time, but I will say the third thing you wrote
Yeah.
down. Write a financial vision statement that includes
Yeah.
feeling words, not just numbers. Not like, well, I want to go back to work and I have to make 50,000 or more a year. No. I want to go back
Yeah.
to work and here's what I love to do. And approach it that way first, not all by numbers and money.
100%. Yeah. So when we have this values discussion that I talk about, oftentimes we use feeling words. And instead of, I want to make 50,000 or say 50,000, instead it feels like, I want to know that I'm the best version of myself possible. I want my kids to be proud of me. I want to be proud of me. Things like that. Right. And so when we go through the exercise, and when you go through the exercise of crafting that vision statement, it should be that. Never, the money comes later. What you want to get after is, what do I care about in life? And then a good advisor is going to help you figure out how to put that money to work to make sure that you're getting to the place that you want to in life But to do that, we have to know what you value. And so it's really important that you find somebody who's going to listen to that.
And one more thing, if you
Mhm.
don't really know, if you're listening to this going, well, I don't even know what I would say for my financial vision statement.
Yeah.
Divorce coaches are wonderful in helping you
Yeah.
figure this stuff out. And if you go to divorcedgirlsmiling.com and you go under coaches,
Oh,
I have like 8 of them and they're all amazing and they all have different niches, but they will help you figure out what that job is for you or what you want your life to look like. And you can share all the information with your financial advisor that you're talking about with your coach and vice versa. I think when you
yeah.
get divorced, you need a team, and on that team needs to be a coach and a financial advisor.
Yeah. 100%. There's one that comes up often, which is financial independence. But the coach and or the advisor can help unpack that a little bit more to say, okay, financial independence, why? Like, let's really get to your underlying why. And that's really helpful when you start to set goals and establish your new financial identity.
Luke, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
I loved it, Jackie. And thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. The community of support that you have created here is inspiring to say the least. So thank you for all that you do. It is very much noticed. Thank you.
I appreciate it. If you want to learn more about Luke or you want to have a
Yeah.
consult with him, you can find him on his website, Vidarrow.com. You can also find Luke in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com. You can also go there to read articles, listen to more podcasts, or sign up for my free consult. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you.